Ruben Amorim has identified which areas of the squad need strengthening with up to 6 new signings, what players he was frustrated at following the performance against Ipswich. Quenda is firmly in our sights as his asking price is revealed, injury updates to Martinez and Yoro, and PSG reignite their interest in Rashford. This plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video. And let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with... Let's go through the Amorim stuff first. So Owen Hargreaves said that Amorim was very frustrated. I'm not going to lie. He was right in front of me and he was really, really frustrated with a lot of things. I think Dallow's positioning frustrated him a little bit in the first half. I think he didn't really like the balance of the midfield. And when Xerxes came on, I don't think he was very happy with his positioning and Hoyland's positioning. So there are a lot of things that need a little bit of work. So that was from Owen Hargreaves following... obviously, the performance and the result from yesterday's game against Ipswich, which was interested that obviously if he had front row seats to, and was observing Amorim's reaction, that he was frustrated with, a few players on the pitch, but more the positioning. I think he did kind of say that in his interview after the game as well, that, and I mentioned it in my match reaction as well, Rome wasn't built in a day. We're not going to see instant changes on the pitch, but at least it gives us a starting point. This is, and hopefully things will only get better from here. But as he mentioned in one of his press conferences, there might be a bit of hurt or a bit of pain coming while the players get to grips with the new system and the changes that he's trying to implement pretty much straight away. Amorim himself on the game, though, said, "We are discovering things as we go along, like Garner who can hold the ball between the lines. Bruno Fernandes has improved this game by playing close to the ball, but we can't put him there all the time because he always wants to play long. We will try to find a lot. We will need a lot of time to work on these things." So a couple of things that I think Amorim mentioned there that he's learned from the game is, one, Bruno Fernandes will try long balls all the time. We knew that anyway, but obviously that's kind of confirmed it to him. But that also, I think what he's talking about with Garnacho is that he can play between the lines and he can hold up the ball. It's just what he does with it from there as well, because Garnacho just likes to run at players. So sort of what I think he's alluding to there is that he can kind of play between the lines, but he just needs, coaching and encouraging to do the right things with the ball at that particular moment as well. So interesting kind of points there, saying he was frustrated with Dallow and mainly around the positioning. I don't necessarily think it was a dig around their performances, although, there were some mixed performances from the game yesterday. It was more, by the sounds of things, around their positioning on the pitch, which is only something that's going to come with practice. Practice makes perfect. We need more time to train. We need more games, and then hopefully that it will develop from there and pick up from there. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And let's move on to some transfer stuff, because there's been a lot going on the last couple of days to bring you. So Nuno Mendes will sign a new contract at PSG. He is not going anywhere, despite rumours linking him to Manchester United. Now, that came from Fabrizio Romano, and I was like, hold on. I cover a lot of news and I read a lot of stories and reports, hence why I started this kind of channel as a bit of a passion project. And I was like, I've never really heard that we've been linked with Nuno Mendes for the left back for PSG, but I kind of traced it back to Simon Jones from the Mail, where he said that Manchester United are keeping tabs on PSG left wing back Nuno Mendes, but according to Fabrizio Romano, that is a no-go. So like I said, he's not really been strongly linked with us anyway, so I don't know that, that's where the story came from, and then Romano had kind of dismissed it. So, it's a bit of one of those, like it just came out of nowhere. And like I said, I'd read that Romano had dismissed it before I'd actually read the report. That's how kind of quickly that came out. So again, this goes back to one of the previous videos that we've done where United was saying they're shocked by how many players they get linked with. I'm not, because we get linked with a lot of players. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, this was a really interesting update. So Manchester United have Geovany Quenda firmly in their sights after scouting him before Ruben Amorim's appointment. It can be revealed. Amorim is open to working with Quenda again. Now, that's not the first time we've been linked with Quenda. Definitely a player of interest. That came from the Telegraph as well. Mike McGrath works for the Telegraph, so a decent source, fairly credible. And it's, again, not the first time we've been linked to Quenda. He does seem like he's going to be a player of interest. Whether we can get him or not, his release clause is £100 million, touted as one of the best young prospects around at the moment. It'll be clear links with Sporting and Amorim, but according to that report, firmly in our sight, someone who we've been scouting even before Amorim, and I just think the fact that we've now got Amorim just, kind of would solidify our interest in him potentially. As good as what Dallo was at right wing back, was good at right wing back. I'd like to see him further up the pitch. So getting someone like Quenda that can also play in that role would be really interesting update. And then Ebola, so a Portuguese outlet has also said that Manchester United have intensified their efforts to sign Giovani Kenda and are preparing an offer of 60 million euros plus bonuses to arrive for him next summer. Sporting are open to negotiating with United at that price. So it's about £50 million to get a young player like that as well. I mean, it is a little bit excessive. 17, touted as being a generational talent as well, but two kind of, I wouldn't say Ebola as credible as the Telegraph, but, there's no smoke without fire. We've been linked with Quenda for a lot. £50 million or 60 million euros for next summer, intensified the efforts. This is definitely one to keep an eye on, I think, because there's a few more stories. I do want to wait for a bit more credibility, though, like an Ornstein or a Romano or someone like that to kind of come out with, or the Muppeteers, who I think is a good source as well to kind of confirm whether that interest is genuine or not. But no smoke without fire, definitely a player of interest, definitely one that I think would be, a really interesting option to bring in. A lot of money, though, for a young player, but, fits the mold of what any of us are looking for. Young, up-and-coming, developmental, so he would kind of tick a few boxes. Obviously worked with Amorim before can play at the wing back kind of position. So would kind of, would be a decent option. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now let's move on to some injury updates. So Lisandro Martinez is expected to be out for around 2 to 3 weeks with a spinal injury. It's not that serious. That came from United Menace, who are quite good when it comes to injury news and updates and stuff. So hopefully a couple of weeks for Martinez, and then he can be back in the team. It's kind of timed all right, I think, because hopefully if Luke Shaw coming back, potentially he can fill in at that left-sided centre-back position, while Martinez is out. But I'm sure, he will be a miss, though. He's one of our best defenders, is Martinez. And I think he will really suit that left-sided centre-half position really well. So a little bit gutted, but not the worst thing in the world, 2 to 3 weeks. And then Leny Yoro has not suffered a setback despite not being included versus Ipswich. He is continuing planned reintegration following the injury he sustained pre-season. So dispelling a few myths and rumours that Yoro's picked up another injury. He hasn't. He just wasn't included because it's part of his rehab. So they're not rushing him back. They are going to take their time with him. We knew that anyway. So that's why he was travelling with the team and doing all of that stuff, but not included in the matchday squad, not because of an injury or anything. Just part of his reintegration into the kind of first team, letting him travel, do all the team talk and all of that stuff behind the scenes as well, which will only help him going forward as well. So they are, taking a soft approach with Leny Yoro. Might even see him midweek, though, because he has been back training for a week or two now, which will be exciting. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then another player, brought you news last week regarding Uby Martin and him potentially being on a fast track to the first team. And then Uby Martin is with Manchester United's under-19s on their flight to Amsterdam today ahead of their UEFA Youth League qualifier against AZ Alkmaar tomorrow afternoon. So apparently Uby Martin already taken a step up into the under-19s. Whether he'll play or not too sure, though I don't know why you would take him if you weren't going to potentially include him. So he's already on that kind of step, that fast track. Now with the 19s, scored again at the weekend for the under-18s on absolute fire. Definitely one to keep an eye on. If he keeps progressing the way that it is, might not be long until he's potentially in the under-21s, but I think it will do him good to kind of play against an older age group. Remember, he's only 16. So very excited around Uby Martin, and I think that's positive that they are starting to kind of, build him up a little bit, because he's clearly, he's scoring goals for fun. He's clearly very talented and probably too good to be playing at the level that he is now. So I do think that's the right move. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, let's go through the next story. So, Ruben Amorim fears Manchester United need as many as 6 new signings to enable the club to start climbing the table again, having identified the positions he needs to strengthen. His priority for the January January window and the players he plans to build around after witnessing their 1-1 draw at Ipswich on Sunday. Amorim would like to sign 2 centre-halves, a left-back, a new midfielder, a striker and a new winger to get the club upwardly mobile again and bring his new 4-3-4 formation to reality. Now, that came from Team Talk, who are a little bit of a kind of gossip and rumoury outlet, so I would say take that story with a little bit of a pinch of salt. However, the players' names that are linked in the report as well are ones that we've been linked with heavily anyway, so we'll go through them. So in the report, it was saying that at left back, the priority is Davis. That has been reported, though, if you remember back to some updates I brought you last week around from Florian Plettenberg and Christian Falk saying that actually, United are aggressively going for Alphonso Davies. We've had a few other people as well, like the Muppeteers and stuff, saying that we are looking to compete for him. Whether we'll get him or not, I highly doubt personally, but to win the race, you've got to be in the race with Davis. Kirkes is the other one, and then Alvaro Carreras as well. So they're 3 names at left back that we have been heavily linked with already. At centre back, the 2 that were named were Diamandi and Branthwaite. Again, 2 players that we've been heavily linked with. Diamandi, loads of updates last week, and even in the summer, we've been linked with him for a while, even before Amorim came in. Branthwaite, we know we've already had a deal, personal terms agreed with. Loads of reports coming out that we're going to go back in for him again, potentially as early as January, but I think that depends on the funds that we can make available through like some player sales or something. Centre midfield, Gomez, again, heavily linked with him over the last few weeks. Right wing, Quenda, just mentioned him, more links with him. And then up front, Gyökeres, again, heavily linked players. So I don't think we would get all... like if you get Davis, Diamandi, Branthwaite, Gomez, Quenda, Gyökeres, like that would be outstanding, by the way. Very expensive, though, and I don't think we would have that sort of money available. Definitely not in January. Argue to see whether we would get them in the summer. That might be one to maybe over the next 3 or 4 transfer windows you could potentially do. But I mean, Davis, if you did get him, and Gomez are free transfers, so there's no transfer fee. Diamandi's release clause is around £60 million. God knows what Everton will take for Branthwaite, having rejected £60 million offer from us in the summer. Quenda, we've just mentioned, £50 million. And Gyökeres is around £60 million as well. So they're very expensive. So I highly doubt we would get those. I said in one transfer window, definitely not. But potentially over time, if you got potentially over time, that wouldn't be... I don't think beyond impossible. They are names that we're linked with, but again, I think it's a bit too early for that report to come out saying that after 1 game he's already basically said, I need 6 players. I don't think he's that sort of coach, Amorim. He wants to give the players time. He believes in himself to be able to develop players and kind of and improve them himself. So I it's one of those, it was not from the most credible source as well. So again, I would say take it with a pinch of salt, but they are all names that we are linked with heavily as well, not from more credible people than Team Talk. So maybe they're just putting 2 and 2 together and thinking, well, actually, with all these players that we've been like more heavily linked with, it's not beyond the realms of impossible, but I highly doubt. I want to see way more credibility than Team Talk, to be honest with you, in regards to that. But, definitely interested. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, one of the ways, though, that potentially we could fund that sort of transfer window would be through player sales. And one of the players that's been linked with a move away from the club again today is Marcus Rashford. Paris Saint-Germain have reignited their interest in Manchester United forward Marcus Rashford ahead of the January transfer window. Sources close to the French giants say that manager Luis Enrique is not happy with his current attacking options, particularly Gonzalo Ramos, and wants to bring in reinforcements. Team Talk understands that PSG have renewed their interest in Rashford as they search for potential attacking alternatives, and Enrique is a big admirer of the England international and believes he can get him playing at his best again. Now, that did come from Team Talk. Now, with Team Talk, they have some, credible journalists work for them and some not credible journalists as well. And that was from actually probably their most credible journalist, although still not credible. He's good for like Team Talk, but I would still say take that story with a pinch of salt. Rudy Galetti is, he's got like 100,000 ex-followers, so he's a decent source, but not an Ornstein or a Romano. So again, I would say take that with a pinch of salt. But one of the ways that potentially, going back to that, we could potentially fund a sort of not January, but a summer transfer move for some of those players would be Marcus Rashford, because he represents pure homegrown profit as well. Just on the report though as well, and before I kind of give my thoughts on that, it did say, however, the situation surrounding Rashford has not changed. Even after the arrival of Manchester United's manager Ruben Amorim, the club and the Portuguese coach view the 27-year-old as a key player and want to keep him, and the fact he's under contract until 2028 puts them in a very strong position. So again, in the report it said that United might not be, well, they want to keep Rashford, but he might be of interest again to PSG if that story is to be believed, which I would say, take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt for now. But, potentially, could you get the funds available by selling Rashford to go out and have a bit of a splurge in the transfer market, because he is pure homegrown profit? Me personally on Rashford, right? And I keep thinking about like when I'm judging player sales and stuff now, right? I keep thinking about Omar Barada's kind of comments when he said like players have got 2 years to perform, otherwise they should be removed. And I think Rashford is in last chance if you go off of last season's form. Do you know what I mean? So I do think it would depend on how he performs for the rest of this season. I think the club maybe would look at it again in the summer going off of that, because we have a few players, I think, that have question marks around them. Like Rashford's not the only one. I would put, Luke Shaw in that one because of injuries. I would put Tyrone Malacia in that because of injuries. I would put Mason Mount in that because of injuries as well. Do you know what I mean? There's a few other players within the squad that I would have like as a question mark around about potentially being on a last chance because of that kind of, that like Anthony would be another. Oh, Anthony would be another one. So there's a few players in the squad that I would put like a question mark around based on that kind of 2-year cycle. So I do think, potentially, who knows, maybe if he doesn't perform for the rest of the season, would they kind of look at it and say, well, actually, no, you've had your 2 years, mate, off you go, and look to potentially move on Rashford? Because you've got to bear in mind with PSR rules, selling homegrown players is something we're going to have to do more of going forward, because it represents the best value. That's why Scott McTominay was sold in the summer, because of his homegrown status, and because we needed that kind of capital in order to be able to progress the squad as well. So I wouldn't necessarily rule out, like I would make my personal opinion based on how he performs for the rest of the season. But let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way up, subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.